Nancy, I'll give you go on set 502 by the clock. Copy.
No, that's not your small.
Put it down low and it doesn't go down again.
It's got me to space and back twice, so I have to take good care of that.
Ready to go. Excited?
And we are at T-minus 9 minutes and counting in a series of missions to the nearest space station. And we will leave Andy Thomas aboard Mir. He will be the 7th and final U.S. astronaut to call the station home.
All personnel, the countdown clock will begin in 3 minutes.
This is the guy that actually suited me up for my first flight a year and a half ago.
Performing the launch status check. Verify ready, resume count. Go for launch, say go or no go. OTC.
OTC, go.
TVC. TVC, go. PTC. PTC, go. LPS. LPS, go. Houston flight.
Flights, go.
Hey, Terry, looks like weather's good. Looks like we got a good vehicle, and we're going to try to get you out of town tonight, and be looking forward to seeing you back here in 9 or 10 days.
Thanks a million. We'll see you in a few days.
Flight crew, OTC. Close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow.
And we have a go for auto sequence start. Endeavour's onboard computers have primary control of all the vehicle's critical functions.
15.
T-minus 13 seconds.
10.
9. 8. 7. 6, we have a go. Start. 4. 3. 2. 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, continuing the union of U.S. and Russian space endeavors.
Roger, roll, Endeavour. We'll be hitting 98, sending our last astronaut for his stay on Mir with an owl for the Wolfman.
Houston is now controlling. Roll maneuver is complete. Endeavour is now in a heads-down, wings-level position, headed to a rendezvous with the Mir space station. Endeavour now traveling.
As the Space Shuttle Endeavour blasts off into the heavens, on board are 7 special human beings.
Endeavour Houston, go at throttle up.
Roger, go with throttle up.
6 NASA astronauts and 1 Russian cosmonaut, all members of an elite order, those chosen to break the bonds of Earth's gravity.
Endeavour's traveling at the speed of about 2,000 miles per hour. 2 minutes, 9 seconds into the flight, the booster officer confirms good separation of the solid rocket boosters.
One of the astronauts who made the cut is Dr. Andy Thomas, a space engineer born in Australia. NASA selected him in 1992. Thomas began his journey to join Mir 12 months earlier here in Moscow. He's training at the Russian Space Agency's Star City complex. If Thomas is to become NASA's last astronaut to join the troubled Mir, he must graduate as a full-fledged cosmonaut.
Some people thought that I was crazy. As they would say to me, you know, you're going to have to go and live in Russia, endure the winters, and you're going to have to learn Russian. And my reaction was, well, that's why I want to do it. I was quite excited by the prospect. And of course, right now, it's a very interesting time because it's going through such profound changes in its social structure.
The big issue on Mir
for a crew person is comfort, is physical comfort. You're unable to open the door and go for a long walk or go across town or something like that. You are in a confined space for a long period of time, and that has got to impact your comfort for a while, after a while.
For 4.5 months, home for Andy Thomas will be a place where night turns into day every 90 minutes. A non-dimensional world, no up, no down. Gravity doesn't exist here. All astronauts must adapt to the weightlessness. It rules their every move. Thomas has been to space once before, and here in his cosmonaut training revisits that bizarre world aboard the Vomit Comet. It's a Russian transport plane that defies gravity by repeatedly climbing, then dropping into freefall.
That was a lot of fun. What we were doing there was practicing donning and doffing the suit in zero gravity, doing it yourself, just so you get a sense of how you can get into the suit in zero gravity. It's actually easier to do that in zero gravity than in 1G. Also handling large masses in zero gravity, where something may be weightless but it has a lot of mass and therefore a lot of inertia, and you have to handle things carefully or it can upset your own balance.
When you see the changes is when you come back to Earth, and then we really notice difficulties with keeping your blood pressure up. You notice it with the neurologic function and reflexes. You notice it with bone density mass for the long duration flyers and that sort of thing.
No one makes it into space without intense medical scrutiny. To perform well, it's critical that the body's cardiovascular system copes with the stresses of life without gravity.
When you stand up in normal gravity, you know, most of your blood volume is contained in the venous system of your lower extremities. Well, in zero gravity or microgravity, there's none of that. Your blood volume redistributes to the torso. So what that test does, it applies a negative pressure to the lower extremities and torso and pulls the blood down towards the feet.
This same test will be applied to Thomas in orbit on Mir to make sure his fitness in space matches his condition here on Earth.
Take me out. Take me out, please. You don't actually have to be as fit as you might think. You know, you don't need to be an Olympic athlete. And you don't need to be, you know, an Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. In fact, you wouldn't want to be. That would be bad in a confined small spacecraft. You have to be reasonably healthy, I think. That's all.
A typical day involves 8 hours of training, either in the classroom or in a mock-up of the Mir space station. At the end of it, he heads back to his one-bedroom apartment, but there's no time to kick up his heels and relax.
Right now, I'm pretty tired.
The pressure is telling now. Thomas faces his final exams.
I'm actually tempted to say, look, this is too much for 1 week. I've kind of, in a way, I've let them overextend me for this week. There's no doubt about it. Too much exams. We'll see.
The heat's on. Andy Thomas and the 3-man crew that will join him in space have an 8-hour test mission ahead of them in the Mir mock-up.
It's really a pre-flight qualification exam for the crew to ensure that they're familiar with basic procedures, they're able to work together well and deal with problems that come up. And they have a lot of specialists from the supporting organizations here to make an evaluation.
The crew will simulate a full day's orbit aboard Mir. They'll activate systems, conduct experiments, and check and maintain equipment. The examiners check their every move on closed-circuit TV.
It's pretty detailed. They want to see that you understand the system, how it works, what it does, and why it's there, and how to operate it. So there's quite a deep level of detail in it.
Hope территория датчиков 3
Для 3-го и 10-го, правильно, для всех. 3-10.
Начинать здесь.
Не надо.
Хорошо. Хорошо.
6. Контроль датчика.
As Thomas activates Mir's monitors, his commander, Colonel Talgat Musabayev, checks that he's following correct procedures. Musabayev is a former fighter pilot and knows Mir backwards. He lived aboard it for 4 months in 1994. Flight engineer Nikolai Budarin is also a Mir veteran. He was a crew member for the first docking mission with NASA's shuttle in 1995. The fourth member of the crew is a Frenchman, Leopold Ehrhartz. He's on his first mission into space. Andy Thomas will be the first of this team to board the space station when the shuttle Endeavour takes him up to dock with Mir.
Нет, сначала нужно в РС перевести. Г-73.
His colleagues in a Russian spacecraft will rendezvous with him a week later. In their training, it's essential that the crew know not only how to operate the space station, but also how to cope if things go wrong. And they certainly have.
И тогда мы должны все подготовить станцию, чтобы быстро уйти.
Yeah, we're going to check the procedures that you use in the event of a fire or a depressurization of the station, which requires that we go around and check the position of various valves on the hatches and pieces of equipment to make sure that things are ready in the event that we have to do an emergency exit. We can just grab everything and go.
If that happens, the crew's salvation will be this tiny capsule, the Soyuz spacecraft. Just 9 feet wide and 23 feet long, the Soyuz is permanently attached to the side of Mir in case of emergency. Lying on their backs, the cosmonauts would take less than a day to make it home to Earth, 240 miles below. In this test, the crew simulates an emergency descent. In this scenario, the Soyuz would shed its instrument and orbit modules and punch through the atmosphere, then parachute either into the sea or onto land. To prepare for such a drama, this Mir crew underwent survival training where they were dropped into the sub-zero Black Sea in a Soyuz capsule.
I didn't know what to expect because, you know, I thought, well, Soyuz is small, maybe this is going to be claustrophobic, underwater, you know, it's a bit disturbing to look out the window and see fish. It's not what you expect in a spacecraft. It was a tough exercise. We were actually in the capsule bobbing around in the water for 2 hours just to change our clothes before we could get out. It was hard work, very hard work. Lost 1.5 kilograms of water in the process, just sweat.
Нормально.
Спасибо.
Good to see you on the land, on the ground. О, я вас приветствую. Прекрасно.
We've just landed in Kazakhstan.
Условно, условно.
And now the day Andy Thomas has been striving toward for 12 months, graduation day. The moment he officially certifies as a Russian Space Agency cosmonaut. This is the last time a NASA astronaut will receive this honor and join Mir before the agency turns its attention toward building a new international space station.
For me, it was about 14 months of training, squeezed into 12 months to get to this point. And a lot of energy, too, I might add. So it's very gratifying to have this closure.
Why were the early astronauts taught to hunt and cook iguana? The answer when Return to Orbit continues.
Return to Orbit is sponsored in part by the complete line of 1999 Lincoln automobiles and by Pepsid AC. You can be heartburn-free with Pepsid AC.
Gosh, you know, I just went to use the phone.
You say once you got back, your wife was gone.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
What?
Have you checked the hot enchilada?
Oh, no. Millicent gets terrible heartburn.
Not this time.
What's that?
Looks like the remains of an individually wrapped Pepsid AC chewable.
Introducing Pepsid AC Chewables, the first chewable to stop heartburn before it starts.
Millicent? Is that you?
Start living heartburn-free with new Pepsid AC Chewables.
One anniversary card with 2 tickets to India inside, $3,500. Caravan to the Blue City, $64. Boat to the Palace on the Lake, $28. 25 years. More better than worse. Priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's Platinum MasterCard, with a high spending limit for the things that matter.
Looks like Taz just got his AT&T phone bill. Taz, don't you make a lot of calls on Sunday?
Yeah, Taz call.
Then use MCI 5-cent Sundays. It's just 5 cents a minute every Sunday. AT&T charges 3 times as much. Taz, just call 1-800-SUNDAYS. Become an MCI customer.
Yeah.
From the Discovery Channel and ABC News, Discovery Newsbreak.
Good evening. The countdown clock has started for the final hours until Thursday's launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery. The crew, including Senator John Glenn, who will become the oldest person ever in space, flew from Houston to the Kennedy Space Center, where the shuttle is being prepared for liftoff. For live coverage of the launch, watch Discovery News Thursday at 1:30 Eastern Time. That's Discovery Newsbreak.
If you park a new Mercedes-Benz from Fletcher Jones Motor Cars next to an identical model from another dealership, you won't see any difference. But there is a difference. See this decal? It entitles you to all of our preferred customer services, including your first scheduled inspection at no extra charge, complimentary car washes Monday through Saturday, courtesy loan cars, storage for SL hardtops, airport parking and shuttle, and much more.
Fletcher Jones Motor Cars, Mercedes-Benz, Newport Beach.
Marie Antoinette said, "Let them eat cake." Cleopatra was Egyptian. A Mercedes is very expensive to maintain.
That cake thing was said years before Marie was born. Cleo was Greek, and we've lowered the cost of many parts and lengthened the time between scheduled service, making a Mercedes more affordable to own. Hey, they used to think the world was flat, too.
Why were the early astronauts taught to hunt and cook iguana? In the event of a forced landing, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts were trained to survive in remote parts of the world. Part of their desert survival training involved the catching and roasting of iguanas. Most of the airfields that the shuttle lands at today have vending machines, making this part of their training unnecessary. Now, back to Return to Orbit.
Now a fully fledged cosmonaut, Andy Thomas flies back to America as Endeavour, which will deliver him to Mir, is rolled out at the Kennedy Space Center. The shuttle is a colossus. 184 feet tall, 4.5 million pounds. Endeavour will be docking with Mir for the first time. After all the near disasters on Mir, media interest in the mission is heating up. In Congress, questions are raised over whether the Thomas mission should proceed at all.
Well, we're going to have to talk along, right?
We're the Shuttle Mir docking flight number 8. And with that, I'll turn this over to you guys for questions.
For Dr. Thomas, how are you dealing with any concerns that you might have?
I think riding on Mir is not so much an issue of safety concerns, but I do think there will be legitimate comfort concerns. I think some of the basic creature comforts from time to time are not going to be there, like the temperature will be high, or the humidity will be high, or it might be noisy. And I think those are the real issues that I'm going to be dealing with during this 4-month flight.
And Andy, can we get you to squint?
Yeah.
Just what makes an astronaut, what gives them the right stuff, takes years of training and focus. NASA interviews thousands of hopefuls each year, but only a handful make it. Just why some are selected over others, well, NASA keeps that to itself.
I don't know. When I sat with all the folks in the interview group that I was in, I wouldn't have picked myself. I would have picked a lot of other people over me. And how they picked me is a dark secret, but I'm glad they did.
Jim Riley, a Texan, is a mission specialist on Endeavour. With a PhD in geology, he's responsible for operating the shuttle's onboard systems and scientific payload operations. Michael Anderson, another rookie and mission specialist, has also never been told why he was selected. But he's a pilot with a physics degree and knows what NASA needs. Well-rounded generalists, men and women who can take on almost any job.
First of all, you need to have a good, solid technical background, so you're prepared to handle the challenges that are going to be thrown at you. But I think also you have to be a very flexible person. You have to be a person who can take changes rapidly and adapt to those changes. Then you also need to be a person who can work well with other people. We take a crew of 7 or 8 people and we put them inside this very small space shuttle, and we put them up there on orbit for up to 20 days. And those people need to be able to work together during that time and get along well.
After surviving the nerve-wracking final selection process at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, successful candidates are thrown into intensive training.
Change the print in between.
It's one thing to train as an astronaut, it's another to be assigned to a mission. And the crew of Endeavour is now on a daily diet of launch and landing simulations, emergency evacuation exercises, and detailing life aboard the shuttle. This is the Shuttle Motion Simulator. It tests their capacity to cope with crisis after crisis fed to them by instructors. Malfunction scenarios bombard them as they practice takeoffs and landings up to 1,000 times each. Andy Thomas, meanwhile, has one last hurdle to jump. All mission specialists have to be able to function as a flight engineer on a T-38 jet, but it's been a year and a half since Thomas has been near one.
Flying in these aircraft is considered essentially as part of your crew training to be able to interact with a front seat pilot and work the controls and avionics systems.
090, 2010, take one.
And I think we're all set.
But then the jet's control systems malfunction.
Seems like this is...
Yeah, I think that steering is screwed up. It's going to...
I think the check wheel downwind 35012 clear.
Right, your wheels are down and we're clear to land. Thanks.
What is an orthostatic intolerance, and how can astronauts avoid it? The answer when Return to Orbit continues.
For a Pentium 2 processor?
MCI 5 cent Sundays.
I need passion, depth, I need intensity.
MCI 5 cent Sundays. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
Think big. Think Shakespeare. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
5 cents a minute every Sunday.
I ask for an actor, they send a comedian.
Call 1-800-Sundays to become an MCI customer.
Again?
Call 1-800...
We asked elementary school teachers to try Motrin IB instead of Advil.
This is the place for headaches.
I got a real whopper of a headache right now.
We thought this would be the perfect place to try Motrin IB.
I get aches and pains all day long.
Nothing, not even Advil, has been proven to work better than Motrin IB.
Okay.
Doctors have prescribed the medicine in Motrin IB more than any other pain reliever.
My headache is gone.
Feel better. Beautiful.
Now it's Motrin IB, spoken here.
I could teach another 20 years this stuff. Maybe not.
The color of trust. One of the colors between the colors, created by Canon. Canon Laser Color. Its only competition is reality.
Thursday at 10:30 Pacific. Discovery News takes you live to the shuttle launch from Cape Canaveral as an American icon returns to space. In 1962, President Kennedy banned John Glenn from space travel in hopes of preserving a bona fide hero. 36 years later, he's going back. Still a hero, still made of the right stuff. John Glenn, a pioneer, returns live. Thursday at 10:30 Pacific, only on the Discovery Channel. What is an orthostatic intolerance and how can astronauts avoid it? Orthostatic intolerance is the sudden blackout resulting from the draining of blood from the head, commonly experienced by astronauts returning to Earth. Regular exercise while in space and inflatable positive pressure G-suit leggings all help combat this brief danger. For the latest news on John Glenn's upcoming mission, visit discovery.com. Now back to Return to Orbit.
And the handoff has occurred. Columbia.
This is a high-risk, high-cost calling. Just months before Thomas's mission to Mir, a drama unfolded that reminded every astronaut of just how dangerous this business can be.
One, and liftoff. Columbia with the Microgravity Science Laboratory.
Here at NASA's Marshall Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, control room staff weren't to know what lay ahead as the shuttle Columbia blasted off for a 16-day scientific mission.
Columbia's 3 main engines is now throttled back to 2/3 throttle to prepare the spacecraft to pass through the area of maximum air pressure and go supersonic. Columbia is traveling 650 miles per hour.
Spaceflight Huntsville for Janice. Go ahead.
Go ahead for Janice.
Now that you've removed the access panel, we'd like to see if you could verify the integrity of that cable.
The Roger came over to help me because I'm not real happy with what's going on.
As Janice Voss, the payload commander, began activating the science experiments, her commander, Jim Halsell, received disturbing news from Mission Control.
My first knowledge that we had a problem which might impact the mission was from an electronic mail that I got from my boss. He said, hey, we're seeing a problem that inside the fuel cell, we are receiving instrumentation readings indicating that you might be in danger of having the fuel cell catch on fire or even explode.
For Susan Still, the pilot, the excitement of being on her first shuttle flight was soon replaced by a new reality, a real-time drama in space.
And I say you copy 511.
The fire would be uncontained and in a place where we can't put it out. So that would definitely be a catastrophic problem.
Columbia, Houston for Jim. We've made the decision down here to go ahead and safe fuel cell 2. First, however, we have a number of power down steps that will involve both orbiter and payload equipment for you to perform. Switch 2 and 1 are now off.
The fuel cell was shut down, and almost all the lights on board were switched off to save power. The fire risk was gone, but the crew wasn't out of danger yet.
We can fly okay on 2 fuel cells, but it's the policy of our program to allow for a next failure. And if we were to have another fuel cell failure, then we would have difficulties coming back.
322, 23, 35.
Columbia, Houston, Simo on air to ground 1 and 2 when you're ready.
We're ready.
Roger, Jim, the MMT had all players in on the meeting right through from the factory, and the consensus is it will shorten the mission.
When the decision actually came down, hey, you need to come on home, get ready to clean up the vehicle and close the payload bay doors, and let's head it on home to the ranch. It was a surprise and a disappointment.
Columbia is being flown perfectly, and it's on the proper approach path to KSC runway 33.
Kara's coming. Straddle the center line, nail that ball bar. There's 100 feet looking for 50. Nail the ball bar. A little bit to the right. Straddle the center line. Final flare. Looking good.
Landing gears down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Drag chute deploy.
Wheels dash.
The shuttle Columbia landed at the Kennedy Space Center after completing only 4 days of its scheduled 16-day flight. At a cost of $500 million for the mission, safety came at a high price. The Mir space station was launched in 1986 with a projected lifespan of 5 years. It's long since outlived that, and in 1997, just about anything that could go wrong did go wrong. The oxygen generators triggered a fire, then the cooling system failed. But the most threatening incident of all was when an unmanned and remotely controlled supply ship smashed into Mir. The collision crippled Mir's solar panels and knocked out half its power supply.
The crew of 2 Russians and 1 American worked excellently. They reacted in a very efficient and professional mode, and they done everything possible in such circumstances to save space station and save their lives, actually.
514, 15 and 16 are complete. Negative TM 141 to clean up the paper.
When Andy Thomas enters the eerie world of Mir, he'll take the place of David Wolf, who's been living in the space station for more than 4 months. From his orbit above Earth, Wolf beckons with words of encouragement for the man who will soon replace him.
And And I would say after about a month, I was feeling extremely good, and after 2 months, I realized just how good you could feel in space. And I'm feeling better and better every day, enjoying working in space more and more.
He's going to be entering a world of cylinders with a lot of cables and experiments and hardware. The things that he'll be without will be, sunshine on the outside of the doors, wind in his face, breathing the fresh air.
Bonnie Dunbar, a PhD engineer, is the payload commander on her 5th flight. She visited Mir in 1995 on the first shuttle docking, but she says no matter how often she goes into space, it's always a thrill. As the Endeavour crew arrives at the Kennedy Space Center from Houston in their T-38 jets, their year of training for this one flight is over.
It's going to be a lot of excitement and anticipation because now you're going to have to really perform. You're going to have to do the job that you've trained so hard to do. There's no turning back now, and for me, that's what I've worked for all these years, and so I just cannot wait until that exact moment when those solid rocket motors ignite.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would actually go and rendezvous, dock, and fly around with an orbiting space station. What a privilege. It's not only special for me to be involved with it, but it's just a special age to live in. There's never been a century like this in recorded history.
As I go into the flight, I'm becoming more and more aware of the fact that I'm going to be gone for a long time. I won't be able to just go for a run outside and do the things that I do here, that I'll have to accept the lifestyle with 2 colleagues for an extended period of time. There's no doubt about it, it's going to be a big challenge.
Now, the crew goes into quarantine. This is one of the last chances the astronauts and their families will have together.
My wife has been the foundation to this whole thing. She's been very supportive. I'm sure she's had times when she wished that she had married a preacher or somebody that didn't do this kind of work, but...
We're near Lake Hollow.
Yeah? Which is what his name means.
So impressive.
Hollow form.
I'm not going to say it's not hard at times. Sometimes it's very hard. That's why we need the support of the other spouses. You pick up the phone and you call one of them and say, talk to me. So I'm not frightened, and I don't think the other wives are either. We know that they've done everything they can, and the rest is left to God's care. And we go and watch and wish them well.
They have the harder job. Yeah, much harder than ours.
How did the Russian penguin suit get its name? The answer when Return to Orbit continues.
MCI 5-cent Sundays.
I need passion, depth. I need intensity.
MCI 5-cent Sundays. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
Think big. Think Shakespeare. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
5 cents a minute every Sunday.
I ask for an actor, they send a comedian.
Call 1-800-Sundays to become an MCI customer.
Again?
Call 1-800.
You can feel it start to burn all through here. All you can think about is getting rid of it quickly. I even tried Zantac 75, but it didn't work fast enough. Finally, I asked my doctor, and my doctor said Mylanta. Fast-acting Mylanta was made to work fast where heartburn hurts most. Soothing, on contact. It's so fast. My doctor said Mylanta.
And if you suffer from gas, there's a Mylanta just for you. Mylanta Gas.
Coming up next, an insider's peek only the Discovery Channel could provide. An up-close and detailed look inside the space shuttle as our return to orbit special continues next on the Discovery Channel. Explore your world. See the actual plaster casts and deformed skeleton of the Elephant Man as doctors re-diagnose his tragic disorder. The true story of the Elephant Man on SciTrek. Next Monday at 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on the Discovery Channel.
Success has its rewards. Introducing Pelican Crest at Newport Coast, the ultimate reward for your success. Enjoy your accomplishments in a custom home in one of the world's most desirable locations. Breathtaking views, incredible amenities, and peace of mind. To find out more about building your dream home in Pelican Crest at Newport Coast, call or visit our Newport Coast exhibit in Fashion Island. Pelican Crest, the reward for your success.
If you're lucky, it's someone else's child who's going to school in a place like this. But in California, this is what many kids see every day. Our classes are more crowded than Mississippi's. 39 states spend more on schools than we do. That's why we've got to vote yes on Prop 1A. With strict accountability and without raising taxes, 1A will build new schools and repair old ones, provide access to computers, and reduce class size. Our children's future shouldn't be a matter of luck. Please vote yes on 1A.
How did the Russian penguin suit get its name? To alleviate back pain common to long-term zero-gravity missions, Russian scientists devised a suit with elastic in it to make the arms work against loads. It may have worked to keep the cosmonauts' vertebrae from expanding, but it also made them look and walk like penguins. Now, back to return to orbit.
Everyone's trapped in their own thoughts, and you wonder if everything will work just right, get off the ground. Then the solid rocket's like, you're thrust back in your seat like a kick in the pants. The solid rockets, they only last the first 2 minutes, and during that time, the vehicle really shakes quite a bit. The last 6 minutes, you're just on the main engines, and it's very, very smooth, no buffeting, no shaking, no anything. And then it's all over. You go from 3 Gs to no Gs in just 1 second. You are totally elated. I mean, suddenly you weigh nothing. You look out the window, and there's the Earth right out there. It's just the most incredible blue and white and beautiful planet you could possibly imagine. I mean, it's stunning. You are elated.
I know a very common thing for astronauts to say, and it's true, is when you get up there and you look at the Earth's horizon, there's a beautiful, very skinny band of blue color, striated bands, but not very thick, and you realize that's our atmosphere. That's what we depend upon to live, and understanding that I fly around this globe in only 90 minutes. It can't be that big. We better take good care of it.
The shuttle Endeavour is now hurtling through space at 17,500 miles an hour. 33 hours after liftoff, it rendezvous with Mir. This delicate hookup demands almost microscopic accuracy as both spaceships maneuver carefully into alignment.
With you, Tidris Z, and via Mir, we're looking in through your 2 overhead windows.
Home sweet home. It's an impressive sight, actually. It's just amazing. It's been described as a big mosquito or dragonfly, and it's right. It's got all kinds of wings on it. It's an incredible sight.
We will get 30 feet from Mir, and we'll look at the docking target there. And we'll read that and then execute a series of maneuvers to align ourselves with the docking target. And then Terry will press on in from there to go and dock.
The docking module on Mir acts as an airlock, sealing the 2 vehicles, allowing safe passage from one to the other. the ship's now hooked together, Terry Wilcott opens the hatch. And in the dark of space, one world greets another.
This is Mission Control, Houston. And greetings all around.
Reminder to push and hold the BIPS move.
This is the first human contact for the crew of Mir in 17 weeks. For astronaut David Wolf, it's a homecoming like no other.
Thanks for coming to get me. Although I could have lived fine a lot longer psychologically, physically, but there's a lot of fun and good business to be done on Earth.
Endeavour stays docked to Mir for 5 days. Several tons of science experiments, food supplies, and fresh drinking water are transported from spacecraft to spacecraft. Then, it's time to get ready to separate. For Andy Thomas, David Wolf's return to Earth signals the beginning of his own odyssey in space, and saying goodbye to the crew with whom he has worked so closely for so long.
It's sad, and you have mixed feelings. Imagine taking one of your friends to a desert island and giving him supplies, and then sailing off without him to leave him there for a few months. It's a sad thing. I assure you, everyone on the crew will have mixed feelings about closing the hatch and then leaving Andy on board Mir.
Each astronaut's stay on Mir comes at a price. NASA has no space station of its own. So since 1995, for the astronauts' combined 962 days on Mir, the United States paid Russia $400 million. As a mission specialist aboard Mir, Andy Thomas spends most of his time running scientific experiments, a cosmic ray detector, plant growth studies, the impact of zero gravity on the body.
Perhaps the one that's taking most of my time, and certainly the one I find most sort of captivating from an interest point of view, is the growth of cellular tissue in a bioreactor vessel. And this is an attempt to grow human cancer cells in an artificial environment. The idea that you could synthesize an artificial tumor which you could use for biomedical studies. So far indications are that it's going quite well, and we're quite pleased.
For the first 3 weeks of the mission, Thomas shared his research space with 5 other cosmonauts. This is the changeover period as he adjusted to the strange realities of weightlessness.
You get used to the idea that you can have things like this in front of you, and that's normal. That's the norm. And you know, if you think about it, that's really a bizarre concept. You know, after 40-something years of living on the planet, I've not been able to do this. Now I can do this.
While there's fun to be had with zero gravity, back on Earth, David Wolf found it difficult adjusting to gravity.
Good to see you. Sorry to keep you waiting. We had some testing to do. Oh, okay. Keep holding here.
I'll do that. You done all right?
It's tough. I won't kid you. I feel fine, but you'll notice I'm keeping my head pretty still, because if I turn my head very much, my body feels like it's accelerating into the next room, and the room will turn upside down, so I'm being very careful. But I feel about as I expected. It's hard to live in space, and it's hard to come back, and that's a lot of what our research is all about.
Back in Zero G, Thomas's crewmates have been busy spacewalking to repair the damaged vehicle.
And I had the armchair view of it all, looking out the windows, and it was really fascinating to watch my 2 colleagues moving around outside in the pressure suits and handling the equipment and doing the work out there.
While the astronauts stay busy and mentally occupied, every day in space reminds them of simple pleasures they left behind.
Well, let's see. All of us are missing tea and coffee with sugar. We all have a sweet tooth, and we bought a lot of tea and coffee, but it's without sugar. Every morning we complain that we have no sugar in our tea and coffee. When I made the menu up for my food, I thought, well, I'll be healthy for a few months, but in hindsight, I wish I'd perhaps not been quite so healthy and bought some coffee with tea with sugar. That's probably about all in terms of food that I'm missing. A hot shower would be very nice right about now, I'd have to admit.
But there are deeper, more personal issues that Andy Thomas grapples with on Mir. This is as isolated as any human can become from Earth, and the effects of that are beginning to tell.
It's a funny kind of isolation, actually, because you're actually not that far from Earth. When you look out the window, you can see it. You can see clouds, and you can see landforms. It's a fascinating view, of course. But you still feel a great sense of distance, even though it may not look that far. Particularly if you might be flying over your home city and you look down and see it, and you think, you know, it looks quite close, and you think, just down there is my house, all my friends, and so on. I could just get there for a while. And of course, you might be close to it in distance, but you're enormously apart from it in speed, because we're traveling at such a high speed, 17,500 miles an hour. So the view is gone, and you pass your home in no time. But you do feel pangs at those times when you see it.
Whose head was used to study the way in which space radiation penetrates the human skull? The answer when Return to Orbit continues.
Return to Orbit is sponsored in part by MCI 5-cent Sundays. Pay the least on the day you call the most. And by MasterCard. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard.
MCI 5-cent Sundays.
I need passion, depth, I need intensity.
MCI 5-cent Sundays. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
Think big. Think Shakespeare. 5 cents a minute every Sunday.
5 cents a minute every Sunday.
I ask for an actor, they send a comedian.
Call 1-800-Sundays to become an MCI customer.
Again?
Call 1-800.
9 programs, $27. 5 hot dogs, 6 pennants, $45. 1 big puffy hand, $6. Their first big league ball game, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard, the card at the heart of Major League Baseball.
Good financial decisions require expertise. Life needs flexibility. Success demands leadership. If there's something you want to achieve, the principal has one word of advice. Plan a financial strategy for yourself or your business. Start today. 1-888-506-PLAN. Plan ahead, get ahead. The Principal Financial Group.
Coming up next, an insider's peek only the Discovery Channel could provide. An up-close and detailed look inside the space shuttle as our Return to Orbit special continues next on the Discovery Channel. Explore your world. Thursday at 10:30 Pacific. Discovery News takes you live to the shuttle launch from Cape Canaveral as an American icon returns to space. In 1962, President Kennedy banned John Glenn from space travel in hopes of preserving a bona fide hero. 36 years later, he's going back. Still a hero, still made of the right stuff. John Glenn, a pioneer, returns live. Thursday at 10:30 Pacific, only on the Discovery Channel. see the actual plaster casts and deformed skeleton of the Elephant Man as doctors re-diagnose his tragic disorder. The true story of the Elephant Man on Sci-Trek. Next Monday at 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on the Discovery Channel. Whose head was used to study the way in which space radiation penetrates the human skull? No one is really sure. The head is a donated human skull, which was sliced into horizontal sections, fitted with 125 sensors, and then filled with tissue-equivalent material. The same head has been used over and over again, but its age and sex are kept secret by NASA. Now, back to Return to Orbit.
Andy Thomas's experiences on Mir, his thoughts and feelings, as well as the changes to his body, are being cataloged by NASA as it prepares for an even bolder space venture, the International Space Station.
There's a lot of information we learned from this mission, and of course Andy, who's up there now, will learn a lot, and it's our job to transfer that information into the International Space Station program.
The program is the biggest multinational engineering project in history. 16 nations working together to construct a permanently occupied laboratory in space.
I think it was inevitable that collaboration in this space program would cross international boundaries. And I think that's the way it should be, because no one country should own space. It is the territory of the universe, and is not up for ownership.
The International Space Station will be so big, the length of 1.5 football fields, it will be visible with the naked eye from Earth.
It's the future of space, and it's exactly where I want to be.
The International Space Station will be constructed bit by bit, like a giant Lego set, in 43 supply flights. Each country's contribution will be ferried up to the orbiting facility and attached. It was originally scheduled to be completed in the year 2002. Now the estimated completion date is 2004, or as late as 2006. And the price tag?
In total, it might cost about $20 billion. That's certainly estimated cost. Hopefully we will not exceed it.
Really, it isn't that expensive when you finally look at it. In terms of the individual American, we're looking at about $1 out of their tax bill.
If you look at the history of mankind, mankind's always had a desire to make an investment to expand his boundaries. That's been true from the days of Columbus, and I don't see space as being any different from any of those other endeavors that we've seen through the history of mankind.
The International Space Station heralds the new dawn of space exploration and discovery, the future of the astronaut. For Andy Thomas, it promises to be the next chapter in his extraordinary journey as an astronaut, a journey that once was just an impossible dream.
There's a great sense of freedom that you have, because you say, well, I've done that. Even if I never do it again, I have done it, I have experienced it, and it was a good experience, and it was everything that I wanted it to be and more. And that gives you a lot of peace and a lot of contentment, and with peace and contentment comes freedom.
Main gear touchdown. Nose gear touchdown. Discovery now rolling out on runway 15 to the Kennedy Space Center, bringing astronaut Andy Thomas home after 4.5 months in space to complete the shuttle Mir program. Next stop, the assembly of the International Space Station.